Alright, before we ever get started, thumbs up. If you don't like it, thumb me back down. And I want you to go up to Origins Explained. They got 3.8 million subscribers. He did a special piece on my research, and I would like you to go up there. He's asking for comments. And please go up there to Origins Explained, Mysterious Discoveries Made in the Mountains. He's talking about my research about primarily the mud fossils, and here I am on his channel. 3.8 million subscribers. We need to get this out there, but you got to go up there and make a comment, please, and a thumb up. Let's get going. All right, this channel is Origins Explained, 3.86 million subscribers. Now, listen to what they have to say. I thought this was very good. All right, so here's what they're going to start right off. Let me put some CCs on here. Now, don't forget, we're going to be going to this in a minute. Hold on one second. All right, listen to this. This is fabulous.
What if I told you that everything you've been taught about our world was a lie? What if mountains were really giants? What if the titans of Greek mythology actually existed, and they shaped our planet as we know it? I'll explore that idea, as well as several other mountain finds, in today's video. So grab a snack and get comfortable, and let's get into it. Graveyard of Titans. Have you ever seen a massive rock formation or a mountain that resembled a face or a person, and thought to yourself, was this once a living creature? Turns out our planet may be a vast graveyard of titans. The Graveyard of Titans theory suggests that ancient giants, titans, and enormous trees once dominated Earth, but over time they somehow turned into the mountains, rocks, and geological features we see today. Could that be true? While mainstream science tends to dismiss these ideas as fantasy or myth, some independent researchers and theorists believe there's more to the story than what we're taught. According to this theory, titans or giant beings may have walked the Earth in prehistory and eventually petrified, becoming part of the planet itself. Supporters of the theory argue that modern science has chosen to ignore this idea, dismissing it as legend. But what if these stories hold some truth?
This is the
Alright, let's see if they do hold truth. Okay, let's get past the fact that meteorites and asteroids are body parts. Now they're saying they have just finally uncovered the mysterious origin of most meteorites. Well, they break them down into a couple different categories, but those are simply body parts. There's stony meteorites, iron meteorites, chondritic meteorites. I have all of them right in front of me right here. And I will show you these in the microscope and explain exactly the body parts that they are and why they form into these different types of meteorites. You see this? There's 70,000 meteorites, they say, exist. Well, I've got a bunch of them right here. Only 6% have been clearly identified. Clearly by who? They came from either the Moon, Mars, or Vesta, one of the largest asteroids in the main belt. The source of the other 94% of the meteorites, the majority of which are ordinary chondrites, had remained unidentified. Well, they don't know where they came from. Now, they're seeing this with polarized light. Now, I'm showing something here in my microscope. Hold on. I got to turn the lights down. But this is in my microscope. This is just a common lung. That's a common, ordinary lung that petrified in the mud fossil way. And it appears in space they also petrify in the mud fossil manner because they're basically cooked by the radiation in space. Now, I want to show you something. You see in between all these different colored minerals, the reason they're colored minerals is because all of these were different alveoli and different tubes and sizes and so forth, and they had blood in them. And blood has all the transition metals. Once it starts to establish a seed crystal, it starts to grow with that color. Now watch this. I'm going to tip this up. I'm going to find the sweet spot here. Hold on. There it is right there. Whoops. You see that? You see how everything is just like crystal shining back at you like glass? That's because this is mineralization. Now, in between the dull looking stuff, that's blood. That is literally blood that was running through this lung absorbing all of these different, oxygen and so forth. Your blood is just literally almost 100% metals. I'm going to show you iron meteorite that came through space, and it's still got a black and a red in it. I'll show you, watch. This one here is terrestrial, so it's not the same. Now, if I turn the lights down, you see how you get more and more and more color? You see how fabulous that is? If you get down into the right frequencies, you can see much, much more than if you flood it with just too much. Hold on, let me back this down a little bit. You see that? Isn't that fabulous? And I believe that's where primarily the main red blood and the vein blood entered this thing. So let's see if we can see that in one that really cooked up. All right, and which would turn it into literally almost 100% metals. Okay, my outstanding friends, this is truly a stunner of biblical and millennial proportions. This is just unbelievable. I get this yesterday. Somebody highlighted my channel on their huge channel. They got 3.8 million subscribers. And they detailed it out pretty good. I'm going to show you. They didn't get exactly right, but they put my name out there, Mudfossil University. So I also got another tip-off from another subscriber this morning. There's another channel that has me highlighted on there as well, and it's a very large channel. Now, I also get this morning. As you know, I've been talking about asteroids and meteorites and all that, and they went out and they took a sample from Asteroid Bennu, brought it back to Earth. Now, this I haven't looked at yet, but what it says is scientists have finally uncovered the mysterious origin of most meteorites. Well, let's look into that. Now, I have meteorites here. Here's one right there. There's one right there, came through space. And I have two other ones that are iron meteorites. There's stony meteorites and there's iron meteorites. What's the difference? Why are some of them iron and some of them stone? Let's look into it. I have the answers to these things. And I have a new shirt. All right, so the idea dismissing it as a legend, but what if these stories hold some truth and they're factual? Which is my statements.
The idea isn't just about giant creatures. It also involves enormous trees that might have existed before the biblical flood. These trees are said to have reached miles into the sky. They could have been made of something different from what we know, perhaps a silicon-based material that made them as tough as stone. Today, what we think of as mountain ranges or rock formations may in fact be the remnants of these colossal trees or titans. One of the leading figures in promoting this theory is Roger Spurr, founder of the Mudfossil University YouTube channel. In 2012, Spurr made a fascinating discovery, a giant human hand. It was about 3 feet wide, and it was clear that it couldn't have belonged to any other creature. The hand then underwent DNA testing and had CAT scans performed on it. And guess what? The results, he claims, confirmed that the DNA was human. This led him to further explore the possibility that ancient giants and titans once existed and left traces in the form of rock-like structures.
Okay, that's enough. You should come up and watch this video. And again, it's ancient, its origins explained, mysterious discoveries made in the mountains. Now, because I was the original, the start of this whole thing. And then he goes on to some other unexplained things, which are going to be these little green mice. They're moths, but they call them green mice. I'll show you that in a second. But I support everything that I present. Now, this was not really portrayed exactly to how I portray things, but at least it opened the door to Mudfossil University. Because what happened was there was giant trees, no question. I mean, everything was gigantic. However, the trees in the conditions of the flood, which was a hot water, boiling hot water flood, they dissolved mostly cellulose. However, creatures' bodies are a whole different story because of the blood. And the blood is what preserved them, basically. I go through this whole chemistry, everything, but I appreciate them highlighting my channel, Origins, explain. Nobody's got the origins. Nobody knows how we came here. Nobody knows how it all started. Where did these giants come from? Why was there a flood? Well, how did one god and two gods fighting each other and battles in the heavens? Because I'm going to show you right now, the things I just showed you, there was an asteroid. They say, well, now we finally figured out where the asteroids came from. Well, let's see about that. This is just a journey. Every day is just like starting over again, like I was just reborn. I'm telling you, it's just, for 15 years, it's a day after day of uncovering how much we have been misled. Now, when I say misled, I'm not pointing any fingers to the people 10 years ago, 15 years ago. They were just starting to understand, but there's no question whatsoever. They have to understand. There's no room for missing this. So what does that mean? For the last 10 years, I'm looking at basically false teachers. They know the truth, and they choose to ignore it for their own benefit. That's what I'm seeing. I know it's a harsh criticism, but it's what I'm seeing. Okay, now he goes into about the rocks that I have tested, but they're...
From anything we understand today, this might even explain how they could turn into rock over time. So why does modern science shy away from the idea that giants and titans existed? One reason might be that proving such a theory is extremely difficult. To do so, scientists would need to extract the DNA from rocks, something that seems impossible. Rocks are not organic, after all, and science has yet to find a method for retrieving DNA from stone. However, some independent researchers claim to have found traces of biological material in certain rock samples. Unfortunately, though, this evidence isn't enough to convince the scientific community. The graveyard of titans theory is a captivating one, blending mythology with geology. Whether or...
All right. That explains it pretty well. They just won't accept the evidence. I have the DNA. I have blood. It can be retested right now. And I can't find anybody that will stand up to examine these experiments and tests. So without a peer review, there is no review, so it's just suppressed. And that's what's happened. So now, at least the people outside the mainstream, they realize we've just been misled. Now we're being lied to. Before, it was just a mistake. It was a mistake. People make mistakes. I've made more mistakes than anybody on the face of this planet. Because you don't make the right conclusion instantaneously. And if you really examine virtually everything, which I do, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. But eventually that leads you to putting the pieces together to come up with a conclusion that's valid. And my conclusions are valid, and the mythology and so forth was also valid. And it's a valid statement to say that academia cannot handle the truth. And it's as far as I'm concerned, which again is a harsh comment on, what we're up against, academia, is what we're up against. It's what we're up against. That's the key. They're not here to help us and work with us. They're here to subdue us and keep us under their thumb. And they have done it very, very successfully. Velikovsky in 1950 had all the documents throughout history that should have been examined. And after 11 weeks of having his book #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, they forced the publisher to pull it off the bookshelves. And that was academics. And the way they forced them to, they said, we'll never buy another book from you. And we're the big guys. And they are. And if they don't give you a piece of paper that says you're smart, you're never going to get anywhere, because people will say, oh, well, I don't have a degree. He doesn't have a PhD in front of his name. Well, again, it always turns into sort of a little bit contentious between me and academia, because I am on this side of them, and they're on that side of virtually every one of them. So I got a lot of people to argue with. Not argue, they won't argue, they won't debate, they won't even talk. So I have to flush them out. I really literally have to flush them out. Okay, they didn't portray it exactly the way it should have been portrayed, but at least they opened the door. So they say, what do you think about these carcasses? Could this be real?
Carcasses of titans and giants turned to stone, forming geological features. Could the proof of this be all around us without us even realizing? Let me know in the comments down below. Glacier mice. In the rugged Alaskan mountains, scientists made a peculiar discovery. Moss balls that seemed to have a mind of their own. These fuzzy green balls resembled miniature creatures, almost begging to be adopted as a child's pet. In 2006, while hiking near Alaska's Root Glacier, which is surrounded by mountains, researcher Tim Bartholomew's found something strange. Bright green balls of moss scattered across the ice. Bartholomew, a glaciologist, was puzzled by these odd glacier mice, as they were later called. They weren't attached to anything and simply sat on the glacier's surface, adding a splash of color to the otherwise white world. These fuzzy green balls intrigued Bartholomew and his colleagues so much that they decided to study them. Over time, they discovered that these moss balls could survive for years and even move together, almost like a herd of animals. How in the world is that possible? Well, unfortunately, the reason behind their movement remains a mystery. But that's part of the fun, don't you think? They move at a slow pace, but these moss balls somehow manage to travel in the same direction and at the same speed. It's almost like they're part of a strange coordinated dance. The term glacier mice isn't new. Back in the 1950s, an Icelandic researcher wrote about them, noting that rolling stones gather moss. These moss balls have been spotted not only in Alaska, but also in Iceland, Svalbard, and even South America. But still, not just any glacier can host them. Conditions need to be just right. Wildlife biologist Sophie Gilbert noted that their movement was especially odd. The team suspected that they might roll around like tumbleweeds, but their motion was more complicated. The moss on the bottom needs to be exposed to sunlight, meaning the balls must roll or the moss would die. They don't just tumble randomly either. These moss balls move about an inch a day in what appears to be an organized pattern. Over several years, Bartholomew and his team tracked the moss balls, hoping to figure out what was driving their movement. They ruled out wind, sunlight, and even downhill slopes. None of these seem to be the answer. To this day, no one knows why these glacier mice move the way they do. Can you crack the mystery? And now for a quick break.
All right, now for a quick break. This is what I get every day now. Eerie human discovery on Mars looks exactly like a human face. Everything on Mars was biology. The same thing as everything on Earth is biology. It's just a fact. Okay, my wonderful friends, I rarely make unsubstantiated claims and things I want to be able to support with material evidence. Now, this is up on Bennu. They went up and they picked up the sample and brought it back to Earth a year ago. And this is the surprising phosphate finding. They're all saying, wow, they found phosphates. And there was 2 layers of them with a layer of what's called sarcomeres in between. Let me show you what they found. All right, don't forget now, this sample is back here on Earth. They went out and captured it and brought it back. And this white stuff is phosphates. Now this is without the polarized light. I think I showed you before you can see different things with different frequencies. This shows all these phosphates, which is from phosphorus. And this is not with that type of light. Now, what happens here, we're going to go smaller down to here. And what's in between these layers of phosphates? There's a layer here and a layer on top. And in between is this. And what is that? Well, those are what's called muscle sarcomeres. And they come in blocks like this, and they have a membrane on top and a membrane on the lower. And they pinch and they make your heart pump and your muscles contract. That's what muscle sarcomeres are. This is what they brought back from Bennu, which happens to be a heart. Now you just saw it. That was heart sarcomeres. Here they are right here in a heart attack victim. You see they're all ripped here? They're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be blocks like that. And when they pinch together, that's contraction, and they pull and pull and pull. Now, this can't pull because it's ripped. That's a heart attack. Now, these are sarcomeres. You see the layer in between? You see the layer at the top? Guess what that is? Phospholipids. What phospho means? Phosphates. Same stuff. You know, one of them is a little bit different chemically, but it's because it's in the body and it's being worked on by enzymes and so forth. But it's phosphorus primarily that coats the top and lower layer. It's a phosphate surprise. They couldn't believe it when they found it. I think I showed you this. Phosphate surprise, surprising phosphate, 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 Bennu whole solar system original ingredients. Yes. University of Arizona. I've been trying to get through to them about because they have the samples. I want to find out if they found what I'm saying they should find. And they did. I know they did, but for some reason it wasn't seen in the remote sensor. This is not unknown. These are sarcomeres. This is what came back from Bennu. Now, for them to be honest and discuss this and say, could this possibly be a heart? And I say, yes, it's absolutely a heart. There's Bennu right there. We're going to take a closer look at this in a second. These are what they call the heart valves. Now, where are they? They're just below the plumbing. Well, what's the plumbing? The plumbing is this stuff right here. That's where the blood goes in and out all day long, or you die. Now, what is this? That's glue. That's literally is glue. It glues the plumbing to the top of the valve structure. Well, where is the valve structure? Well, there's the valve structure right there. And it glues all that tubing, which is this stuff. Right here is a glue. And it glues to these valve holes, which are these holes, which are these holes, which are these holes. And why? What's this and what's that? Well, that's Psyche. It's another asteroid. But it's metal. It's smelted to a degree. Smelting means to heat something so hot that it turns into metal. If it was blood, right? And primarily it's iron, because that's what blood is primarily. So they call them iron meteorites. They're not totally iron, they're metal. But there's a lot of iron because that's just what happens in blood. This is just primarily iron. Heart, 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 heart. Guess what else? Heart. All right, and let's take a look at what the craters look like on Bennu. Well, does that look like a crater to you? That's a tube. That is a tube. Virtually all these little pock marks are explosions outward from the wet blood blowing out, not from impact craters. And these are the heart valves, and that is the tendon that wraps around the heart to hold the muscle. These are the transition metal colors of blood between the oxygen states. Red, black, see the black here? Red, yellow. That's the different oxygen states of blood as they re-up with the oxygen. There's just virtually no question about it. I mean, there's none, zero. And I have a whole ton of meteorites right here. You know, they're iron, and that's a tiny little lung. There's things coming out of space. There's nothing but living things, as far as I can determine, there ever was. That there ever was. And I have, look at this. This is a rock. A friend of mine, Phil Harris, unfortunately Phil passed away, but he took the 15-minute challenge to go out and look for mud fossils. He sees this red spot. He whacks it with a hammer and it splits right open. And where did it split? Right on the plumbing. This is the buckets of blood down here. Above that was the plumbing that sort of hardened up, but you can see all of the plumbing tubes. Look at this. This is just fabulous. And within 15 minutes he found this. Where's the other spot? Phil, where did you go, buddy? Hold on, let me find it. All right, found it. Now, this is the one we're just looking at. Well, let's just make sure we don't miss anything. This is where the buckets of blood are down below. And there's probably valves in here somewhere. You just don't see them. Now, what was above this was all the plumbing. And what does the plumbing look like? It looks just like this. These are the tubes. And this is into the big red blood area. And the dark, and this is the lymph or something. They're different oxygen states of blood, and these are the different tubes. It's very, very, very obvious. Extremely obvious, and one of them was saturated with red blood. And this appears to be where the vein area is, but all this tubing goes, and when he hit it with the thing, it broke right in half. And they do that. They break right on that seam. Almost all the hearts do that. Very unusual to find one that's complete. Very unusual. But that's originally what Phil did see. He saw the whole thing. The only reason he did hit it because of that red spot. Now, let's see a meteorite coming through space. Here it is right there. What happens is they come through the ionosphere, and it's thousands of degrees. Thousands. It's about 3,000 degrees. And when they come in, it depends on the angle that they're hitting the atmosphere, first of all, and it depends on the time of the day. If it's at night, they come through like this, I'm sure, came through at night. All right, it's not cooked up enough, but there was enough red blood in here that it exploded. This was normally just exactly like this on that side and came across. But that red blood boiled and exploded this out. That's a meteorite, but it came through, I would suspect at night, or, with the rotation of the Earth and so forth. There's different conditions that create different end results. But this is a stony meteorite, and I'll explain to you exactly what this is. I know exactly what it is. That is an iron meteorite. Well, iron, no, not necessarily. What it is, you see all these different colors? Those colors are different metals, and they coalesce into different spots. That's the way blood works. As I showed you with the colored minerals in my meteorite, in my lungs, they just glob together because they attract one another. Now, what is this? What's this and that? That's the red and the black blood. That is the red blood. You see that? What is that doing inside of that iron metal meteorite? Well, the same thing that one right there is doing, which is a vein. And why would they be in there? Well, they would be in there because that was from a living creature's body. And when it came through space, it heated up so hot that it just boiled all, I say the cheap stuff. Here's the deal. This is all the metals, and then there's other metals and metalloids and all this. But these are transition metals. These are primarily the ones that are in your blood. It's mostly transition metals, and there's other little bits and pieces. But iron right here in the main, that's basically mainly what your blood's made out of, is iron. The rest of the stuff is also charged particles that carry around what they call ligands. You want to look it up, look it up. It's called a metal core, which is all these different transition metals, which have charges. They're charged particles. They want to hold on to something, and they're called the ligands. All right, so you got the charged core. It says, hey, come on, I got all kind of extra electrons, or I don't have enough electrons. And they all come over and they collect on it. And it's moving through your body, and then one guy says, hey, I could use some of that cobalt. Yeah, here, give me a couple of electrons, give me a carbon, whatever it is. And they just keep going through the body, dumping, picking up, dumping, and picking up, and then they come back and get recharged. That's what these transition metals do. And they work what they call in aqueous, watery solutions with the hanger-oners, the ligands, and then you dump them off here and there. That's how your body works. As far as I'm concerned, it's proven, and it cannot be unproven. These are muscle sarcomeres. These are membranes. Get a biologist, get a chemist, get an anatomist, get an autopsy guy. And by the way, I'm going to be on a worldwide show on Sunday. It's a subscription only, but he teaches the worldwide. He's got 13 more stops to do this year in his worldwide tour, or I guess it's the United States and Canada and so forth. But he knows what this stuff is. There's no question about what it is. Omaru, there's also no question about that. 100% certainty. It's a finger. Omaru is a finger. Comet 67P, which they put a lander up on there, they sampled the stuff up there. It's the same thing. It's a hip joint, though. It's a hip joint. All of this stuff I have shown without any contest. There's no debate. Nobody's fighting back. They just, and they're pretending they're not seeing it. Well, they can't pretend anymore because it's seen and it's being seen, and it is going to be seen on a worldwide stage right now. I know everybody in the world have seen this stuff. I have been getting from virtually every countries I've never even heard of before, that they're seeing this stuff, and we've always known this. We've always known about this in our culture. Well, everybody's speaking about this. You're finally telling the truth. Well, yes. It's got to be looked at. If somebody can dispute it, that's okay. I can go along with that. But it's disputed in a materialistic way. There's no way you can dispute this. We've sent, literally, it's got to be tens of billions of dollars to get this sample back. It says what I said it is. This everything there is out there in space is biology. The ancient texts say the same things. So what if it was true? Well, it is true. Now what does it mean? Okay, like I said, I've been trying to get through. I try to contact somebody named Hassan, Mohammed Hassan, from Arizona EDU, and so far, and that was quite a while ago. Now, Bennu holds the solar system's original ingredients. Now, this is the University of Arizona, and this is their news bulletin about it. Let's see what they have to say. Sample contains magnesium sodium phosphate, which blew them away. Okay, once again, my new best friend, ChatGPT. I said, Chat, how's it going? First of all, we try to be nice to each other. Do membranes contain magnesium sodium phosphates? Well, Chat's reply is membranes, particularly biological cell membranes, they're composed of lipids, which are the phospholipids, which are the phosphate surprise, and proteins, which are the enzymes and the things that float around to deliver stuff. Proteins are building blocks plus their enzymes, and small amounts of carbohydrates. However, the presence of minerals like magnesium, sodium, and phosphate crucial to the functioning of cells and membranes. If you don't have them, you're in trouble. You're going to be sick. Even though they are not directly part of the membrane structure, they are there to facilitate the chemistry that supports the membrane and the transfer of all of these particles in your body. They assist in enzymatic processes, which is the breakdown of particles millions of times faster than they would have if you didn't have these minerals in your body. They just wouldn't happen. So you need, they are like coenzymes. All right, they're not actually enzymes, but without them, the enzymes can't do their job. They use them in the transitioning, and that's why a lot of these transition metals are used in transitioning. Sodium, magnesium, and phosphorus are not in the actual transition metals, but they support sodium, magnesium, and phosphorus. And anyway, there's a lot of chemistry to it, but it is what it is. I just showed you that they say magnesium sodium phosphates, which was as a surprise to the research team. Now, this is University of Arizona. Let's dig in a little deeper and see what they're doing there, because as far as I can see, you know, they don't want to correspond, this appears. Let's see. All right, I got to be honest with you. I don't remember when I contacted them, but I'm sure it was much earlier than this, but I can't be positive of that. But they have been tasked, it appears, to look into this. It says, a deep dive into the sample of rocks and dust returned from near-Earth asteroid Bennu by NASA's University of Arizona led. So they're leading this task for the OSIRIS-REx mission. It reveals some long-awaited surprises. Well, yes, it was no surprise to me. I knew exactly what it was. A microscopic image of a dark Bennu particle about 1 millimeter long with a crust of bright phosphate. Phospholipids turns into phosphates. To the right is a smaller fragment that broke off. And then we're going to look at that, which I think I already showed you. But I tried to get a hold of these people. And I tried to get a hold to Dr. Hassan, Muhammad Hassan. I'm going to have to try this. I guess maybe I already did. I don't know. I try everybody, and I get no responses, so I just keep going forward, or not really getting too far forward, but I just keep going on. So they're just looking for a deep dive. I think I just showed you a deep dive. That Bennu is a heart. All right, you could come up and read this. It's the University of Arizona, and Bennu holds the solar system's original ingredients. Might have been part of a wet world. Well, it was part of a heart. Well, it is a heart, and they took part of it back here. So I'm not going to go through all this stuff, but they found asteroids that are rich in carbon, nitrogen, organic compounds, all of which are essential compounds for life as we know it. Sample also contained magnesium, sodium phosphate, which is all the chemistry that Chat says are absolutely essential. It contained the phospholipid bilayers. It contained the sarcomeres. They know it's virtually no question whatsoever. It's biological. Now, they get down to I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but here's what they're saying. Hints at life's building block. There's no hint here. This is just staring you right in the face. Team has also confirmed asteroids rich in carbon and nitrogen. These elements are crucial in understanding the environments from which Bennu's materials originated. It was the body of some gigantic creature. And the chemical processes that transform simple elements into complex molecules. The same thing that happens in us, potentially laying the groundwork for life on Earth and in all other creatures. These findings underscore the importance of collecting and studying materials from asteroids like Bennu. Now they say it's this especially low density material, but typically burn up upon entering Earth's atmosphere. And a lot does, yes, said Loretta. This material holds the key to unraveling the intricate process of solar system formation. Well, not just the solar system, but how did these rocks out there form? Where are they from? Now it says, and the prebiotic chemistry. No, this is not prebiotic. This is very biotic, that could have contributed to the life emerging on Earth. What's next? Now listen to this carefully, because I've been trying to get in touch with everybody that's involved in this. Dozens more labs in the United States and around the world will receive portions of the Bennu sample from NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston in the coming months, and many more scientific papers describing Bennu sample expected in the next few years from the OSIRIS-REx sample analysis team. That's why they won't get through to me, because it's done as far as I'm concerned. The Bennu samples are tantalizingly beautiful extraterrestrial rocks, said the paper's co-lead author, Harold Connolly, the mission sample scientist who leads the sample analysis team. Professor at Rowan University in Glassboro, New Jersey, and a visiting research scientist at University of Arizona. Each week, now this is in quotation marks, now listen to this quotation. Each week, analysis by the OSIRIS-REx sample analysis team. Well, what about me? Each week, their analysis provides new and sometimes surprising findings that are helping place important constraints on the origin and evolution of Earth-like planets. Constraints? They have no idea what they're looking at this moment. I'm sorry. You have to communicate. This is not right. All right, now this, if you can see this, metallic profile of whole blood and plasma in a series of 106 healthy people. Now, I think they blocked me from here. But I had originally seen this. Let's see what happens. Metallic profile. Boom. No, I got into it. Beautiful. All right. This is what's in the blood. Oh, you do not currently have access. Oh well. In my other videos, though, I show exactly what the profile is, and there is just nothing more. There's just metal after metal. Every one of these is in there. Virtually every one. They showed 26 of the metals that are in here, and it's more than that. But they looked for these 26. They found them all, and it goes all the way up to uranium that's in your blood. All of those things are there for a purpose because they work in the transitioning of molecules that are like carrots and peas and corn and meat into building blocks of life and into immune cells, and so all that stuff is made from what you eat. You are what they ate. You eat what they ate because they are what they ate. So you are what they ate. And it all comes out of the blood, basically. That's the stuff that transfers everything in your body. Just think about it. Just give it a little consideration. What does happen? If you stop pumping the blood in your body, you die. Why? Well, you run out of oxygen, first of all. Secondly, if you had the oxygen, but nothing else but the oxygen, you'd die from starvation. Your blood keeps moving around, but you don't have any of the elements to go along with it. So the blood is the carrier of life. In every sense of the way, every bit. And water is primarily the mechanism that moves all of this plasma and blood. You know, I think back to the guts of the thing. I like to understand everything about what I'm thinking about, otherwise I feel like I don't really understand it. If you don't understand the beginning, you're never going to understand the end. You're just going to assume something. So you got to start from the beginning. Blood is the prime thing in life. But what is in the blood? What does it carry? Where does it go? What about the bacteria in your body which live in that blood? What about the enzymes which live in that blood? What about the viruses which live in that blood? What about all the minerals and metals and all that stuff which are in that blood? Blood is it, my friends. All right, next video we're going to go through my collection of meteorites. I'm going to show you they're all biological. Now this is an iron meteorite. Nobody's disputing that. This we took from the indigenous people, decided that we should have it. Well, that's iron. Well, what's inside of a lung? It's made out of iron and metals. This is basically the same as that, only it didn't come through space. It just leached out all of its contents and has all of the cavities, basically the same cavities. Well, you see that hole right there? You see that hole? I don't know if you can see it or not, but I don't care if you can, it doesn't matter. Because there's a hole in here, which is there's a hole in here. Well, what is that hole? It's the same as that hole. And where does that hole go? Well, it feeds the rest of all of this stuff. Can I see, is there blood in there? Is there blood rolling around in that? Yes, there is. Can I show that? Yes, it's right there. Well, I don't see the blood. Well, maybe we should look a little closer wherever it happens to be, and I can't find it now. But this always happens to me. Oh, there it is. There's the blood. Huh? There's this blood inside of all of these. There's blood everywhere. I would assume that could be tested. Now with the DNA testing they have, you should be able to test just about anything. They're testing feces now for the DNA of the one that pooped. Now, I find that a little difficult to understand how they could be so certain of that, but Yeah, again, I like to get to the gut. Well, how do they understand? How could you take the poop or something and decide that poop was pooped by some guy that was an Australian that lived in the outback or something? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about? How are they going to know that? But these are the kind of things I want to explain to me. I'm showing the things that I want them to explain why I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. And you shouldn't think so either. I can't imagine you thinking I'm wrong. And here's one of those chondritic meteorites, the type I showed you, like this one right here. They know I know they know this stuff now. There's no way they could be this incompetent for this long. It's been 15 years, and my DNA tests, my CAT scans, my specimens, everything. And now they have the specimen right here on Earth from this heart, which is Bennu. And they have that here on Earth right now. Sample from that, which is the same as Psyche, which is the same as a heart. And this is the samples of sarcomeres layered between two phosphate layers. And here it is right here, which was this surprise. They had no idea these phosphate layers sandwiched this, which is sarcomeres. Now, are we going to acknowledge, at least examining this? They're giving this stuff to all over the world. We're studying like crazy. How much is this costing us? To just say, well, in years to come, sooner or later, we'll figure out what's going on. It's already done. I said, you're going to find, this was the heart, you're going to find all of these chemistry that is in that report I can no longer access. I was able to get in and out of there. But anyway, I have it all documented. There's no secret here. Blood, if they do the analysis on blood, they're going to find out exactly identical to what they brought back from the Bennu. The only thing that'll be different is this was exposed to some ionizing radiation just floating around in space. And what happens is it literally cooks the surface to some degree. Not enough to like Psyche. Psyche had to be something else. Psyche is right here, this one here, that's metal. That you don't get just from ionization. You're going to get a little toast on that, but I don't think you're going to get that. That's my interpretation. I think you're going to get like this. And what happens, why all these things? That's blood exploding out because it's being cooked from underneath here. This is just nothing but a bag full of blood and then a bag full of bloody tissue. Your heart is so saturated with blood you couldn't even possibly imagine. You see this? This is from McGraw-Hill. And this is basically Bennu. It's got all the plumbing stripped and the fascia is gone, and we're down to the muscles, and there is a little more tendon. They don't show it here, but the tendon is also on Bennu, but this is what's left of Bennu. And here it is right here. All right, you see all these little holes here? First of all, that's a tube. That's a tube down there. Can you see all that? I don't know if you can or not. You see these different colors? Those are the transition colors of blood. This is a heart. Of that, there is virtually no question. You see this? That's not splashed out. These were connective tissue, just glue, that held these things in position. This was where the glue, the glob of glue basically, held all of these tubes to the valve assembly, which I just showed you. There's the valve assembly right here. And there was just a bunch of glue, basically, that held it down. And when they dry out or when they get cooked or whatever, they just fall right off. And that's what happened to Phil's. There's the bottom part, and the top part is right up here with all the tubing showing. Where'd you go, Phil? It was here. There it is. There's all the tubing. That's all the stuff coming out. When he smacked it right over here, it split, and the buckets came off this way, and the tubing went off that way. And I mean, it was still wet. Look, he's put his finger in it, it's still blood. So the other thing was on top, and that's where that tubing came down, and it's just glued there. I know it sounds crazy, but it is factual, and that is exactly what we find here. There's no difference. There's zero difference. And this is where it breaks off, right here. And you look down into the tubes here. And this is back here on Earth, so don't tell me you can't test this right now. And this has to take years and years and have everybody in the world look at it for years and write papers for years. That's okay. But what is it really? I mean, let's just start with the fact that it's a heart. That case is closed. That case is closed. Now, if you can prove to me that these are not heart sarcomeres, and this is phospholipids layers on top of them are not by lipid layers, I'd like you to prove it. The chemistry's there, the structure is there, the anatomy is there, the chemistry is there. You know, the anatomy of the entire heart is there. The anatomy of the tiniest parts of the components are there. The structure of the components are correct. The layering of the components are exactly as expected. And I knew this before they came back with it. I said, you can come back here, you can have blood. It's a heart. I mean, it's a heart. It can't be missed. I am as deep into biology, anatomy, all that stuff as anybody ever has been. And I can understand because when I discovered the mud fossils, I realized there was no taste for truth when it pointed to this kind of an upset in the mindset of academia. It just blew them out. Now, I don't want to get too deep into this right now. I'm going to throw some more stuff at you. But we're going to get into a very deep discussion about what's in space. Where did it come from? What did it say in the ancient texts? They said there was battles in the heavens. The Indian texts, or whatever they were, some Hindu or Buddhism, whatever, they said they were vimanas and shooting each other and exploding each other, bombs, and you know, and we've always thought, oh, that's just rhetorical. They're just making that up. They're just looking at constellations. They're making things up. No, 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 and no again. They actually saw these creatures being exploded in the heavens. And if I would just ask my good friend Chat if that was recorded. Okay, my friends, this is tasty. I said, did ancient texts record battles in the heavens and monstrous dragons? Well, what does Chat say? Yes, that's correct. Several ancient texts from various cultures, virtually every one of them, contain accounts of battles in the heavens and monstrous dragons or serpentine creatures, which were snaky. These stories are often mythological, symbolic, and deeply rooted in the religious and cultural beliefs of their respective societies. They all had different stories because they all had different deities, it looks like to me. Here are some prominent examples. Biblical texts, Revelations 12. This text describes a cosmic battle between Michael and his angels and a great dragon, symbolically representing Satan or the devil. And there was war in heaven. War in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels. So there's a whole batch of them back and forth fighting. They fought back. But he was not strong enough. So the bad guy, dragon, was not strong enough. And they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the world astray. In this narrative, the dragon symbolizes the force of evil and chaos being defeated and cast out of heaven. Symbolizes, well, that's what they say. What if it was real? What if he was thrown out and it was a gigantic monster? In the Hebrew text is a mention of Leviathan, a serpentine sea monster. And that day the Lord will punish with his sword, his fierce, great, and powerful sword. And he will punish Leviathan, the gliding serpent. Leviathan, the coiled serpent. He will slay the monster of the sea. Leviathan is often associated with primordial chaos, opposition to divine order, reflecting ancient Near Eastern mythological themes. So they, again, discount it. The Enuma Elish, which is the Babylonian creation myth. This ancient Mesopotamian creation myth describes a cosmic battle, again, in the heavens, a cosmic battle between Marduk, who was a god, a little g god, and Tiamat, which was another, like Gaia or something like that. But I don't know. It describes a cosmic battle between god Marduk and Tiamat, a monstrous sea serpent or dragon representing chaos. Tiamat is depicted as a dragon or serpent of the primeval waters, and the story involves Marduk fighting and defeating her to establish order in the cosmos. Marduk uses a powerful wind to subdue Tiamat and then splits her body to create the heavens and earth. Maybe. In Greek mythology, the Tito monarchy and gigantomonarchy, the Greek myths often refer to battles in the heavens. Again, battles in the heavens, battles, such as the Tito monarchy, where the Olympian gods, led by Zeus, who is literally the planet Jupiter, fight the Titans, or the gigantomonarchy, where the gods battle the giants. Well, the gods killed all the giants. Typhon. In one myth, Zeus battled Typhon, a massive serpentine monster. Typhon is described as a creature with many dragon heads, and the battle between Zeus and Typhon is a fight for control of the heavens. Now, in Norse mythology, don't forget about Typhon, because I found him, and you'll see him in a minute. Norse mythology, Ragnarok, the Norse mythological prophecy, Ragnarok, describes a great battle involving gods, giants, monstrous creatures, same thing. Among them is Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, who battles Thor, the thunder god, who throws lightning bolts at him, cuts his throat. Thor and Jormungandr engage in a final duel during Ragnarok, where Thor kills the serpent but succumbs to its venom shortly after. Hindu mythology, some of these things might have already happened. In the Rigveda, a collection of ancient Indian hymns, the god Indra battles Vitra, a great dragon, or again, a dragon or serpent, who is withholding the waters and causing drought. Indra slays Vitra with his thunderbolt, again, thunderbolt, cutting the throat, releasing the waters and restoring order. And another one, Samudra Mantha, another myth, involves the churning of the ocean, which was when we almost got hit by Venus, where divine and demonic beings churn the cosmic ocean, and serpents like such and such play a role in the process. Chinese mythology, dragons again, significant in Chinese mythology, where they're often seen as benevolent, and they're good gods rather than adversaries. They help humanity. Now, however, there are still stories of dragons engaged in battles both in the heavens and on earth, representing the battle between chaos and harmony. Now, here's another one, Zungnuk's myth. In certain ancient Chinese texts, battles between deities involving dragons represent struggles between cosmic forces. These stories of battles in the heavens, again, battles in the heavens, dragon-like creatures often symbolize the struggle between order and chaos, good and evil. This is where I'm looking at right now, is the good and evil, because I can see there is absolutely no question there's some extremely good people, and there is extremely bad people, and there is a zone in the middle from which you can go one way or the other. And in the middle, I don't know if that's, I think you got to go one way or the other. I certainly wouldn't want to go to the evil side, and if you do that, you're in trouble. I'd say, I would advise to look towards the good side. Now, these are order and chaos, good or evil, divine forces, chaotic powers, eternity. Eternity, you're not just dying, trust me, I don't think so. Not from what I've discovered, not from what I've read, not from all the ancient texts. You do not just die. Something happens, and they all have something happen. They're not all the same, and they may not be all the same. It may be, there was definitely different orders of people. Like the Chinese, they love the dragons. The other ones, they hated the dragons. Maybe they were good dragons and bad dragons. I don't know. I would have to think that that's probably the case. But there was good and evil, which is the same thing today. So just forget the dragon part and say there are good people and bad people. Yes. Were there good dragons and bad dragons? Yep. All right. So we got good and evil. They serve as metaphors, not metaphors, for cosmic creation, transformation, establishment of divine rule over disorder. No, they were the rulers, and they made the rules, and they played them out in the heavens, and they killed each other. The nature of these battles and dragons varies from culture to culture, yes. They share the common theme of a struggle between opposing forces shaping the world and its destiny, yes. It's all good and bad. And why is it good and bad? You live one life? No. You live this life to try to figure out what is good for you in the next life. That's my interpretation right now. Take it or leave it. Okay, so this is my research on Bennu, funded by Roger. Now, what happened in mainstream? Well, Asteroid Bennu has been funded by a number of organizations, including NASA, which returned a sample, was funded by NASA Frontiers program. Mission cost approximately $800 million, slightly more than I spent, excluding the launch vehicle. How much that was, I don't know. Now, here's the thing. University of Arizona apparently is hooked in with them somehow. The OSIRIS-REx mission was a partnership with the University of Arizona. Now, I'm a taxpayer. I should be able to speak to somebody, I would think. Lockheed Martin Company, OSIRIS-REx mission was a partnership with Lockheed Martin Company. So this is another one. And I'm sure the funding's coming from us. I can't be positive of that, but I would think so. Canadian Space Agency. Instrument was provided by them. JAXA collaborated with Mudfossil 2 mission on asteroid sample science. This is what I want to be in, on a sample science. National Science Foundation, they fund everything. Funded research on Bennu. U.S. Department, and I've contacted most of these. No, well, I can't say most of them, but I certainly have contacted the National Science Foundation, and I think they may have me blocked. Some big ones do. I don't know if them or not. I'll withdraw that, but I'm blocked in most places. The Department of Energy, they won't talk to me either, and they funded a bunch of this too. I show that we might even be able to get free energy using that light venturi, because it separates the white from the black. All you want is the white. It has no weight whatsoever and has all the energy. Shown it a million times. Here's another one from Los Alamos, the Directed Research Development Program, Los Alamos, funded research on Bennu. National Research Agency. All of these are funded from not to them. They don't have any money. They take their money from us. This is another one, research on Bennu. CNES funded research on Bennu. United Kingdom Science and Technology funded research on Bennu. European Horizons, European Union funded research on Bennu. Academies of Excellence funded research on Bennu. I would think excellence is looking to what I have presented, because I have presented more evidence than they presented, and we have the evidence right back here in our hands right now to prove whether I'm right or wrong. There it is right here. That's it. 2 phosphate layers sandwiching muscle sarcomeres. If they can explain that in any rational way, then I will just sit down and go in the woods and just shut up. But I'm not going to shut up until I get some answers. And I deserve those answers. I am a taxpayer. I pay a lot of taxes. And I deserve answers. You can get answers from anywhere the answer can come from. Doesn't have to come from a guy that has a PhD in front of his name, or he's hired by the government agency. I find that those people are the ones that don't want anything in their way. Not necessarily the truth. If the truth is in their way, get it out of the way. That's what I have found. I'm sorry. I keep saying it over and over and over and over and over and over, and I will. Until somebody pays attention to this, and I think it's starting to go mainstream. I have shown the evidence that is undeniable, absolutely, literally 100% undeniable, and with the samples here on Earth, it's stunningly undeniable. And to say that we're hoping to get papers in the next couple of years to understand this is, that's not science. It's not science at all. If they will address this to me in a forum and say, why do you say that is not muscle sarcomeres? Why do you say that is not membranes? Why do you say it's not a heart? And they will not be able to support their statements and claims. It can't be done. Okay, I just want to show you that this is not a joke. This is a piece of rock. All right, I have it in the microscope over here. We're going to be looking at it in a second. And this is what I call a spur lock. And that flap comes back to this latch right here and locks that into position in the person's body. That is the exact same flap. Exact same flap as this. Now, what is this? I think this goes to an organ. But they all have a flap on them, so whatever that organ is attached to, it's locked in like this. That's a tear. Whatever it is, I don't know. This, I can tell you what it is meat. This is some kind of muscle. This locked into like a shoulder or something like that. So it could be a totally different situation, but it is still a spur lock, and every single organ on the human body that I can determine has one of those. Now, I have something I'm going to show you in a microscope that should kind of shock you a little bit. Before I do that, though, you see this here? Every organ is completely surrounded with a fabric bag. This would have been surrounded completely. Just like your liver, your heart, your kidneys, your lungs, your pancreas, all have a certain chemistry in the bag that surrounds them. However, that bag has to transfer its chemistry in this fluid-filled layer to the next bag. Nobody knows about this yet. This is a new body part, basically. I'm going to have a thing with an international celebrity in fascia. He's the guy that is the fascia guy. He's Gil Hedley. And he does tours all around the world. He's been doing a tour around the United States and Canada. He's got 13 more stops to do. He's doing one a week all over the country. And he goes all over the world teaching, and he's got people all over the world. And they're going to be in this podcast, and I'm going to be working with Gil. I've worked with him for many, many years, but never really put him on the spot like this. And he's good with it, because he knows. He's a biologist. He knows. He can see. An anatomist. He does autopsies. He sees this stuff. And I asked him about this. I said, "Do you understand what that thing is?" He said, "Well, we always considered it fascia." And I said, "Well, it's different." And I know it's 100% different. No question about that, because this right here, that little orange tab, is on a lung. That's a lung, but it's completely stripped of everything except the spur lock. That's that lock right there. That's it. All the rest of the pleura is gone. And these are alveoli, these little balls. Those are alveoli, which are in lungs. This, I don't think this is a human lung, but there's all kind of animals here. So, and I have so much stuff, it takes forever to go over. So that is the latch that I'm talking about. That's the important part to take away from this. Now I'm going to show you something that came through space, which is a lung, and that there is virtually no question about. And it has the spur lock on it, very, very clear. All right, so don't forget, here's my claim that every bag that coats, like your lungs, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, every one of them is a separate, different type of chemistry, because what's involved in that bag is a different chemistry. So where the fluids leave one bag, which is a certain chemistry, to go to the other bag, which is a different chemistry, I think we need to do some tests with autopsies. What's in this bag compared to the other bag? Is it exactly the same fluids? What's the difference in the fluids? And this is what we're going to be looking at right here, up in the microscope. And here's where which is that same rock. All right, you see those two little white spots at the end? Right there. That's where the fluid comes out. That's where the fluid comes out of this whole bag. This whole thing was a bag up here. Now, you see, this is the spurlock. Those two tabs right there, take your time to look at them. Those are the fluid transfers. Now, going back this way, I'm going to back it up. That flap is strictly to transfer the fluids and so forth. It sort of overlaps and joins together with the next bag. Going back is where the lock is, right there. There is the lock. That is tough, tough, tough. And you see all that little flappy stuff going together? That's kind of tough too. But right there, that's the toughest spot. It's really gnarly. And there's a whole bunch of little holes. Let me back the light down and play around here a little bit. But this is the spot that's the lock. And then when you go back from there, in the muscle, it sort of just spreads out like this and becomes fascia, see? And it just sort of coats it with a thin film of fascia, the whole thing. But coming this way is where it gathers together, and that right there is the lock. That is tough. All right, follow me through on this. That's where the transfer of the fluids is. Now I'm going to back it up to where that gnarly, gnarly, gnarly spot is, and there it is right there. Now, this circle is what it just locks in like, just like unbelievable. Now, I'm going to play around with the light a little bit, maybe even shadows and whatnot. But that right there, that is the spot that I talk about, which really locks it in. Now, I'm going to put a little water on there, play around with it. Well, let's play around with the light first. You see? This is the gnarly spot. It's tough, tough, tough. Now, if I back out of here and run down from the gnarly spot, you see all of this right here? That's like an abrupt transition. And then you go into the fascia, which is, this is the fascia coating, and it just keeps going back and starts to mix right over the top of the bloody stuff. All right, and it just coats. You know how there's like a skin on the chicken and so forth. As a matter of fact, well, let me show you that. But that right there, I'm telling you, that is tough. Tough, 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 and tougher than tough. And then you go from there forward to the tip, which reaches out with the two little tabs there to transfer the juice. It's in that layer, because that layer has juice in it. That's where the fluid-filled highway is. It's a fluid-filled network. And that's the two transfer points. All right, I showed you this lung, and this is also a lung. Now, this one, the spurlock, literally broke off and was left where it was attached. Otherwise, you'd see the spurlock here, it's gone. Well, this one still has it. And this is a lung, and it has the spurlock on it. And I will show you that clearly in the microscope. It's that triangular spot that I keep showing. Okay, you saw the flap on the piece of meat here. Well, that flap right there, let's turn the lights off, is on a meteorite that came through space. And I'll show you, it's primarily iron, but this is not metal. It's a different substance. All right, I would hope you recognize that structure. That's that little flap. I think these are the two little jobbers right at the end, but I could be wrong. Now, don't forget, that's that flap. And look at the texture of this, the color of this compared to the rest of the lung, which it is a lung. Now we're going to come back to where the gnarly spot is. And this is the whole gnarly spot area back here. It locks in. And that's tough. That is tough, tough, tough. But you see the difference between that, the coloration, everything. I'm going to put a little water on there. You'll see another difference. Now, it comes back to where all the alveoli are here. Those are the alveoli that have the blood in them. Now, why do we see them here? They exploded out. They didn't just erode. They exploded coming through space. Now, it wasn't big enough to cook enough where it completely turned into metal. But there's a lot of metals in it. So it is a little magnetic. Now, you see the black areas here? You see that right there? This is perfect. Hold on, watch this. You see these little white spots and all this black? That was the outside is called a pleura of a lung. And that would have been white everywhere. There'd been a zillion billion white ones, and the whole thing would have been sealed. And I'll show you a lung that didn't come through space and has all of that pleura on there. But the takeaway is look at the white things and all the little black stuff between it. The black stuff just cooks and turns black. The white things really burnt off primarily, but there's some here. And all of these little holes are the alveoli. All right, this is a pretty good shot. This is an alveoli. They run through the whole lung, the airways, and they dump out through these tubes. Now, this again is the pleura on the lung, and there's just blood and all kinds of biology all over it, but it's primarily singed. That I bet you we could get a good catalase reaction from, but who knows? You know, I don't know if we'll get a catalase reaction or not, but I can see we should. However, I had just flushed this really with a lot of water, and it sucks it up. So sometimes that affects it, right? But I might as well flush it with some hydrogen peroxide. Now, here's what happens. There's an enzyme in every living creature there is, even plants and animals, everything. 100% have membranes, and those membranes have what's called catalase in them. Catalase restricts extra oxygen. So if I put extra oxygen in there, which I am going to, it should bubble it off and foam up and say, get out of here. No, you can't come in. If there is catalase in there. Catalase is an enzyme. It's only created by life. So if the enzyme is in here and it bubbles, that means we have life, proof of life. So I'm going to flush it, and then we're going to come right down on top of it. It could take a minute or two to start foaming up. So I'm going to flush it right now. And this, like I say, this is hydrogen peroxide. What it means is it has an extra oxygen. All right, because it's an H2O2 instead of H2O. Now, what we want to see is bubbles. And I like to see the foamy stuff, which is where the membranes are. So let's come right down on it and take a look. Because the bubbles will probably be extremely tiny. Are we getting any bubbles? Yep, we got bubbles. There's enzymes in there, just as I thought. Watch down here. Hold on. You see the bubbles coming out? This is the ones I like to see, the really fuzzy ones. I'm going to get right down close. I can't get any closer than that. This microscope is not really designed to do really high-end microscope shots. Look, see? That's what's coming out of there. Hold on, let me back it up a little bit. All right, there it is right there. That's Catalase. Now, this came through space. And what is Catalase? Catalase is a molecule that is given off by biology. Every bit of biology will give off this. That, my friends, is proof of life. Zero question about that. No question whatsoever. And the more I put in there, the fuzzier it'll get. So inside of this meteorite, I should be able to tell what kind of a creature it was. It's probably a chipmunk or something. It's not big. But there's no question we're getting the fuzz out of there. Yeah. Well, as far as I'm concerned, that case is 100% closed. There is no denying what is undeniable, and that is undeniable. It's simply undeniable. So if we have enzymes, does that mean we might have some other biological chemistry here, which primarily would indicate DNA or something along that line? That's all fuzz coming out of there. You really don't see it. You got to get real close, because it's breaking off almost it is breaking off individual molecules of oxygen, turn them into a bubble. So the tiny bubbles, and I mean they're tiny bubbles, you almost can't see them. Let me see if I can get down to where the fuzz is. Like I say, we're breaking off individual bubbles of oxygen. You see that? That's catalase, my friends. That is not a standard reaction. That is only happening because there's extra oxygen in the H2O2, which the body says, no, get out of here. We don't do that. So there's like virtual proof of life there. That whole area is bubbling, you see it? But coming from in the deep, with that black background, that is stunning. Those are literally individual oxygen bubbles that are being broken off the H2O2. This is literally the first time I've ever seen this. Call me Roger the Excited. Now let's see if we can enhance that by throwing in some more into that black hole. All right, this is the black hole. So here you go. Oh, wow, I almost spilled my H2O2. Don't want to do that. Okay, here goes. Let me get a really good size hit on this, and then I'll slide it out of the way and then slide it back. All right, let's see what we got now. Wow, look at it blowing out. It's starting to penetrate. Sometimes it takes a little while. Well, that's penetrating now, baby. We have penetration. Look at it going now. Look at that. It's really sinking in now, and they're blowing up into bigger bubbles. I can make them get really big now. Watch this. Hold on. Okay, my friends, get ready for this. This is the lung that came through space. I showed you the spur lock on, I believe, and we're down inside here now. I did a Catalase test. I think I just showed you, but it's all of a sudden really started to take off. So let's see if we can get that going again. Now, don't forget, Catalase is an enzyme only created by biology, which is any living thing. Every living thing has Catalase, which is an antioxidant, which is from the body. Now, I am flooding this thing with hydrogen peroxide. Now, let's see what that does, and I can see it's bubbling up like crazy. Look at it. Look at that. Look at that. That is one of the strongest catalase reactions I've ever seen. Look at that happen right now. This is out of that lung. Those are bubbles. Look at that. My goodness. That is just stunning. I have never had a better catalase reaction ever from anything that I have tested. And that's because it's gone down inside the lung. So I can tell you right now, there is some serious amount of blood in that lung. Look at that. I got to be honest with you, I'm pretty well stunned. And I don't get stunned real easy. This is a lung, came through space. There it is now. It's starting to slow down, and it's going to start to fuzz. All right, so we're going to get the fuzz. Now, I'm going to bring it down here. Wait till you see in that black hole. I think I showed before, but inside that black hole is really... I thought I had a better shot at that before. Well, let's see. Let me bring it right up on it. You see all those little white flakes in there? That is literally, and I'm not kidding you, literally individual hydrogen atoms turning into a gas once they're released from, because of the catalase. Just so you understand the chemistry here, because nobody understands anything until you understand the chemistry. Hydrogen peroxide has an extra oxygen. Like, you know, water is H2O. Okay, that's one O. We don't want extra oxygen in us. So we have a chemical called catalase. And it's in every living thing, everything. Biology, plants, animals, fungus, everything. And it's in your membrane. So if something tries to penetrate your membrane with one of these, what they call reactive oxygen species, which can kill things, the enzyme, which we're seeing reacting right now, just stunning reaction. This is just, I've never seen anything so active in my whole time doing this. Look at that. And every one of those is an oxygen atom that's being released from the H2O2 into making it into H2O. Your body likes water, but it does not like that extra oxygen. And they're all just bubbling away, just coming right out of there. I'm stunned. There has to be good DNA in that, or some kind of, you know, there's going to be sequences, no question whatsoever. In my mind, none whatsoever. And that is that right there. Now, I'm going to bring it down to show you what we were just looking at. All right, I'm going to turn the lights on, so we're going to lose this image. All right, I'm going to come right down to where it's being, right there. That's where we are, right on top of that cavity. And what cavity? That cavity right there. That was what was just bubbling intensely. And they're all over the place. Look at them. They're everywhere. And that's because they boiled out. It's not because they leaked out. This, again, I showed you the white fibers and fabric. Well, let me show you something that from one of my lungs that I had DNA tested. And I talk about the white fabric here. All right, hold on. This is the white fabric. Let me show you. Hold on. It should be around that long. All right. If we were to actually, boil this thing down, if this had cooked up coming through space, it would look like that. Or it would be. It's big enough that it would have smelted almost entirely and turned into one like this. But we'd find blood in it. No question you'd find blood in it. You see that? That's where just raw red blood comes out of there. People say, oh, you can't get blood out of a rock. No problem whatsoever. You want to see blood come out of a rock? I've shown this one a zillion times, but this one here is, I believe, another meteorite. Now, you see it's like scalded off here. Well, I fractured this stuff off to break into it to see what was, and I cut it across. It's got a vein and an artery, which every living creature does. Every creature, veins and arteries, and I looked at those very carefully. There, no question, that's what they are. Now, I said I can show you blood rehydrated very quickly. You see that right there? That is where there's a tendon investing. And this is the membrane. Now watch this. This will only take 30 seconds or so. Maybe not even. You see that? That's red blood right now. That's red blood. And that's because it's a membrane. All that is a membrane. And I can show this in the microscope. You see it a little better, but that's red blood. And all of these little, I don't know what body part this was, but they cook down into where you have all that gnarly stuff. You see that? That stuff is as tough can be. And the fleshy part is cooked down to it. And there's quite a few of them here and there. And the vein and the artery are back here. Hold on. That's the artery side. And that's the vein side. See how it's black? The artery side I chiseled out to really look into it, but this is a vein in the artery, and the rest is, see how red that is? It's just red blood. I love doing this stuff. You see I should put that in a microscope on this end. And we look at what I call the rind. This is the rind around it. But most of the fleshy stuff is gone. And this would be considered the basement layer. And that's it's magnetic. It came through space as far as I'm concerned. And so did this one. Now when I show you what this is, you're going to freak out again. Because they're all body parts. It's exactly identical to this one. Only this one is from Earth and this one from space. You see the hook? You see that hook? You see that spot right there? I don't know if you can or not. That's the vein right there. That's why it didn't blow out. Here's the vein right here. That's why that one didn't leak out. Vein. This one has a vein up here too. They don't leak out. However, the red blood side, in the terrestrial one, it just leaked all over because it got squished. Just a coincidence of excellent, perfect, circumstances to show this is that. Only this one didn't leak. This one exploded. This side here leaked. All right, that side there exploded. This was an explosion. And it blew this side of the whole fingertip off. This one just leaked out. It didn't blow off. You see how identical they are? They're identical in every single way. Where the blood is, where the veins are. This one's all blacked off and scarred coming through space. And the crazy thing is, this appears to be the building block of a fingertip. And of course, this is a fingertip as well. And this still has all of its, skin on it and all that stuff, which I've looked at. This is pretty well fried up, but again, it got so hot that it exploded. Now, it didn't burn up a lot. So I suspect this came in at night with the rotation of the Earth sort of straight in and got out of the heat fast enough that it cooked it and exploded the side off, but before everything started to burn up. Once the moisture's gone, that's when you cook. So it must have come out of there, because I can still see it. It almost looks moist. You look into this thing, if you look at it with the microscope, it looks like it's pretty fresh. And I just showed you what happened with that other meteorite. They're out in space, and the thing they came back with, Bennu, there's no question whatsoever, it's from a heart. Let's find out what this means, and let's do a little more, science rather than just circular activities that's going on now. I got something to show you that just absolutely shocked me. Because I can show you I have a gigantic fingertip. And they have apical tufts. Well, I got to show you. I can't stop now. They have what's called an apical tuft. And I have a small fingertip right here. And the apical tuft is right on the top of that fingertip. And we can see the little holes in the apical tuft, as I will show you in a minute. This is just a fingertip. And that is blood running from the artery side out, because it died facing down this way. And all the blood ran down to the bottom. And it had nowhere to go, so it popped out here. Well, actually it was laying like this, because you see it? That is right there, that's red blood. I'll put it in a microscope. And I can actually tell you what the plane is, depending upon how it came across here. And I think it was probably laying right about like this. And that's the red blood. That's the fingernail. And right there is where the apical tuft sits with these balls. And I'll show you the apical tuft is right here. This is an apical tuft. Where you see this, this is going to freak you out. It did me. I don't know if you guys saw that, but this is the fingertip I'm going to be matching up to the apical tuft. Let me show you where an apical tuft is in a fingertip. And what I can say, there's one in here, which is virtually the same as that. And then on the bottom, they have a big lump that sticks off the bottom, and that anchors to a whole batch of little tendons. All right, this is another one. It's just too much. You see these spots right here? Now, this is the tip of a finger, about the same size as ours. Right at the end, this is blood. You see that? That's red blood. Hold on, let me turn the light up just a smidge. And that's like crystallized red blood. And that's coming out of the artery. And then at the bottom, because it was tipped down, I'm going to go to the underside. This is the underside of the finger. We just were at the top. You see all this? This is crystallized blood. Now that's the bottom. I'm going to roll it around. So it was on a plane this way here. So it was tipped downwards. So the blood ran down and created all these crystals from the red blood, and it congealed down at the bottom there. You can see it. That's the congealed red blood. So we're at the top. Right there. Now, what's those three little spots? You see that? You see those? This is towards the finger, well, it is the fingernail. That's where the apical tuft is on a fingertip. And it comes back down here. This is the rest of the finger. You know, a piece of it. Mostly the fingernail pretty much runs down to here. But there's an apical tuft right at the end that locks everything into place. Well, I have one that's been eroded from a giant fingertip. Remember that spot, those spots. Okay, my friends, shocker du jour extreme. You see these three holes here? Look at this. That's these three holes right here. That's the same thing. This is what they call an apical tuft. It sits right under the fingertip at the end. And it has these balls. Now, on the other side of it, it's got a little belly-looking thing. And I see those on the other side of the fingertip. But these are those balls. Now, I have one right here. Let me show you something. This is what's called the end of a fingertip is called the distal, which means the end, phalanges, which means fingertip. Well, this right here is a distal phalanges. And that is what would sit right there at the tip of that distal phalanges. I'll show you another couple shots of this. Now, you see what I showed down here at the bottom? That's a wire brush. It has iron steel wires in there. And they bleed when this called, you know, black. They call this bone black. This is the pattern of a distal phalanges. This up here is the pattern of the bone, and it's extremely highly eroded. Now, this is not from this fingertip, but I have all kinds of stuff from this big wide hand I have. It's about, it ranges between 3 and 4 feet wide. Now, this is, and that was the vein and the artery. I have it here. And all this stuff has been DNA tested. It's human. And that's the bone black showing the distal phalanges, and that is the tip of the finger. Now, you see what I just showed you was this here. And laying flat, it would look like this. And this is this. And then there's a couple of deep cuts into the fingertip on the sides, which I have found in mine as well. And then you have that little rocker that's in between there, and you got all these tendons coming up. This is the tendon that locks in here that creates a big cut on the side of the fingers. And this is this piece right here, which anchors all your tendons that are coming up here into that tip of your finger. All right, here it is right here. This is what I'm just talking about. This is the apical tuft. It's right there. And it has all these little tiny holes in it. Now, I showed one of these. Oh, that's some kind of lotus blossom or whatever. No, there's a ton of little holes in here where these anchors come up, which are the things that allow your finger to twist around and distort and do all these things. And that is called the apical tuft. There it is right there. Very hard to dismiss, my friends. Now, so we have an apical tuft. Then after that, you got some kind of fibers, this and that, tendons, and you got the joint caps. I find all this, it's exactly what I'm finding in mine. No difference whatsoever. Only mine have turned to stone. All right, check this out. That right there is the apical tuft, which is this right here. This one was from another finger that had completely, totally eroded, totally whacked out erosion job. But this right there, that is where the tendons lock in. So you can do all these kind of things with your finger. Now on the other side, we go to the bottom of the fingertip. Now this was CAT scanned, and I'll show you the CAT scans in a minute. And there it is right there. You see, there's the bottom. All right, now we saw the top. This is the bottom. Look at this now. You see all these little fibers coming out of there? That's what locks that ball in to the bottom. That's so, again, you can do all these kind of things. Yeah, if you can't see that, I don't know what I can say. Now let's look at the CAT scan, but look at the little fibers coming out of here all around that ball. Whoops. All right, and then you come back here to the pads, and like I say, I got CAT scans of this, 2D and 3D. The 3D don't show much in the mud fossils like these. They don't really show much in mud fossils at all, no matter how they were preserved. But you'll be able to see where the fingernail was. You see that these hooks here. You see that? You see what it looks like? Somebody chiseled that. When I first saw it, I said, how the hell did that happen? But it's part of the anatomy. All right, and I guess it's just Velcro tape holding this together. Whoops, this piece here together. Because I broke it off, because I can see the bone. And I know where this fingertip came from. This came from a right-hand thumb. That's why the bone's sitting way off to the side. Your thumb, the bone sits way off to the side. All your other fingers go straight up the middle. But the rest of it is all thumb. All right, and that's not even my big one. And I have the whole hand to this. I have knuckles. I have all kinds of, like you can see, I have little bits and pieces all over the place of this thing. And this is what I just showed you. Now let's look at the CAT scans. Hold on. All right, this is the 2D CAT scan of this fingertip. This ball right here, you can see that ball? That's literally that ball. And you saw where the apical tuft sits. It sits right at the end of the distal phalanges, which I showed you, which is right here, which has all of these little fibers sticking out of it. You see the little fibers running out everywhere? Now you see this? Take your time and look carefully. You see that little line coming all the way around, all the way around, all the way around? That is the fingernail. That's the bed of the fingernail. You see this little angular cut here? That's this right here. That's that. And that, to my mind, was kind of strange. I thought, what would cause something like that? Well, then, so I went to look at the anatomical structure of tendons, how they lock into fingertips, and explain the whole thing. Remember I showed you this, which is the distal phalanges bone black pattern of the bone inside the rest of the stuff, which is primarily the marrow is showing. And that is the distal phalanges apical tuft, vein side, artery side, and the artery blew right out completely. Now, this is that pattern, that bone black pattern, and it's because the black leaks out from the center of bones. Now, this is where they hooked in, you see? That's what creates this. That's what creates this. You see it? It's locked in right there. So, another mystery explained. Now, where did that other apical tuft come from? Right there. You should be able to see that circle. I think maybe I already showed you this. I got involved. Anyway, I think I already showed you this, but that's where the apical tuft is, right there. Right there. You see that little round spot in the center? That's it. I guess it would be on this side. One side's up, one side's down. I think I've made that pretty clear. And I've shown you the CAT scans, or some of them. The other ones, you really can't see a lot in the 3D. The 2D is pretty good. You can see the bone pattern very clearly. And you can see that is one of the tendons. And that's the other tendon. Now, this is, looks to me like it's blood supply of the vein probably on this side and the artery on this side. But you can see there's a little hole there and a little hole here. And these are clearly something that makes your finger do all those kind of things. Now, or your thumb actually. Now, which may be totally different now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, and that's the reason it's your thumb is because it's set off here. You see this? And this is a right hand thumb. That's because this chunk here has nothing attached to it. It's hanging off the edge of the bone. You see it? You got the same thing. Check yours out. The lump is hanging off that side, and this side's sort of flattish. And I broke this off, and there is bone under there. You can see it, but it's primarily turned into mudstone. There'll be some chemical changes, yes. But when you look at it, even when you look at it in the 3D, hold on, I have it here it is. You don't see much change. You don't see much change in there. You don't see a whole lot of patterns and blood supply and this and that. But you do see the bone outline. Don't forget, I showed you, this is the bone. Right here. Way down at the end. And this is the piece that I broke off. And it was on there, I think, during the scan, but just barely attached. Now, that is the bone pattern, which is quite obvious that that's the bone pattern. Now, you can see there's blood supplies running up and around, and they do that. That's fully understood. It's exactly what you expect. Now, but again, you don't get a whole lot of detail there. But I have all the detail in the actual physical rocks, so this was a very good shot, showing the bone, showing the tendons, showing the blood supplies and all that, everything. So, you know, if they're looking for hard evidence, I don't see where I don't have it. I have everything. The DNA tests were very extensive. Now, I removed the samples and submitted them to Eaton Biolabs. And this is one of the things I removed blood from, which was this lung. Excellent quality was obtained from the 36-inch tap and the lung, which is this one here. I mean, literally came out like raw blood. And I drilled down inside, discarded that, and then drilled deeper and put that in 2 glassine bags. All right, and then I also did 2 other things. And they all came back human. Excellent quality, excellent quality. Homo sapien, cytochrome B, and D-loop region. The 36-inch tip, a 36-inch long fingertip. And the other one was from the thing I've been just showing you, the one that had a CAT scan, all that. You know, there's the big things you can't get CAT scanned, obviously. But Hold on a second. Okay, once again, I've extended things way too long, but if you want to learn, you have to learn. You have to learn everything. This goes back 10 years. And this is why I have to present this in a complete manner and show that this is just nonsense to be hiding from this. And the ones we trusted to go to get educated, they don't care about the truth. It's very, very apparent now. I don't think anybody can deny that. And I'm talking about across the board. Across the board. Physics, too, including our light research, where we found the muons and the electron neutrinos, created muon showers and electron showers, and again, refused to examine it. So you take your, again, it's a refusal by academia to engage in an advancement of science. I want to leave it at that.